Alright, let's talk about what just went down between the Baltimore Ravens and the Detroit Lions. Because if you're looking at the scoreboard alone, you might think this was some kind of close thriller, but anyone who actually watched knows it was not that type of game at all. This felt like a repeat of that matchup last season when Philadelphia rolled into Baltimore and came out with a win that looked tight on paper, but when you watched it, you realized the Ravens were outclassed from start to finish. Against Detroit, it was déjà vu. The score said 38-30, but that does not even come close to describing the gap between these two teams on the field. The Lions dictated everything. Offense, defense, tempo, coaching. They had it their way. For Baltimore fans, it was a frustrating watch because you kept waiting for that spark, that crazy momentum swing, that signature Lamar Jackson moment where he drags his team back into the fight. But it never came. Instead, what we saw was a Lions team playing with confidence, composure, and aggression from the very first drive. They were not intimidated, they were not hesitant, and they made it clear right away that they believed they could control this game. And they did. Let's start with the Ravens' defense, because honestly, that's where the biggest issues showed up. It was ugly. And if you've been paying attention to this defense for the past couple of years, you probably weren't shocked. Under Zach, this unit has been inconsistent at best. We've seen stretches where they look dominant, flying around and making plays, and then long stretches where they can't stop anybody. It's become a pattern. Against Detroit, that pattern showed up in full. On the very first drive, you could see it. The Lions could run it, they could throw it, they could do whatever they wanted. Jared Goff had all day in the pocket. He was comfortable, relaxed, barely even touched. The Ravens tried sending 4, sending 5, sending 6, but it didn't matter. They couldn't get home. No sacks on Goff the entire game. 0. Meanwhile, Lamar Jackson? 7 sacks. That stat alone tells the story of the night. Baltimore's pass rush has been an issue all season, and you can't hide it anymore. Against Josh Allen, you could make excuses because of how mobile and strong he is. Against Joe Flacco, they still didn't look convincing but got by. Against Jared Goff, though, a quarterback who isn't exactly known for escaping pressure, the fact that he sat back there all game, comfortable and unbothered, says it all. When a quarterback like Goff doesn't even have to feel a hint of fear, you know the defense is failing up front. And it wasn't just the line. The secondary struggled too, especially Marlon Humphrey. He had a rough outing against Amon-Ra St. Brown, who just kept finding ways to beat him. Play after play, Humphrey was on the wrong end of those matchups. And credit to St. Brown, he played physical, precise football and just kept winning. But it's still alarming to see a veteran like Humphrey getting cooked that many times in one night. The Lions' play calling deserves a lot of respect here. Their offensive coordinator put together a masterclass. Misdirection, creative designs, and an ability to put their guys in the right spots over and over again. There was one play on 4th down that summed it up perfectly. A handoff to St. Brown, defense closing in, and then suddenly the pitch goes to Jahmyr Gibbs, and boom, touchdown. Plays like that happened all night. Even when Baltimore's defense looked like they were in position, Detroit's scheme gave their players the edge, the angle, the leverage to turn it into a positive gain. That is coaching. That is preparation. And how about Sam Laporta? He's quickly turning into a nightmare for defenses. Everyone knew he was a talented pass catcher, but in this game, he showed the full package. Blocking, bullying defenders, catching in traffic, pushing people out of the way. He looked like a tight end, a fullback, and a wideout all rolled into one. His presence made life easier for everyone else on that offense, and the Ravens had no answer for him. To make matters worse, the Lions marched down the field not once, but twice on massive drives of 99 and 96 yards. Let that sink in. Giving up one drive that long is bad enough, but 2 in the same game? That is a defense that is broken. And it wasn't because of flags or penalties gifting free yards either. The Lions earned those yards, every single one of them. When you see that happen, you realize the Ravens were not just outplayed, they were outclassed. And then there's the run defense. David Montgomery ripped off a 72-yard run that set the tone, and while Humphrey hustled to catch him before the end zone, the damage was already done. Montgomery finished with over 150 yards on the ground, while Gibbs added another 60-plus and 2 scores of his own. Both running backs scored twice. That's 4 rushing touchdowns allowed. The Lions weren't just getting chunk plays, they were controlling the game physically. It was the kind of night where even when Baltimore seemed like they had a shot to swing momentum, Detroit slammed the door shut. Dan Campbell's aggressiveness played a big role too. He wasn't scared to go for it on fourth down, wasn't afraid to take chances, and those decisions paid off. He coached like a man who believed in his team, while Baltimore looked hesitant and reactionary. The truth is, this Ravens defense has problems that go beyond one game. The lack of a pass rush is killing them. You can have all the talent in the secondary you want, but no corner or safety can cover forever. If the front seven can't create pressure, quarterbacks will pick you apart, and that's exactly what happened here. Now, with Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes coming up next, the pressure is only going to get worse. If they can't figure it out fast, Mahomes will carve them up too. This isn't just about one coordinator or one game plan. It's about a pattern we've seen for a while now. The Ravens' defense looks solid against weaker quarterbacks, then completely falls apart against the elite or even above-average ones. That trend is not going away, and unless something changes, Baltimore's supposed top roster in the league will continue to waste opportunities. And when you look back at this game, you can't even say the Ravens' offense was the main problem. They scored 30 points, and Lamar's stat line on paper looks great. 21 completions on 27 attempts, nearly 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's clean. But those 7 sacks? That's the story. The offensive line got bullied, plain and simple. Aiden Hutchinson lived in the backfield, pushing aside tackles like they weren't even there. On one play, he shoved Ronnie Stanley right out of the way, brushed off 2 more linemen, and drilled Lamar. That was the kind of mismatch it was in the trenches. And to make it worse, some of those sacks were on Lamar too, holding the ball too long, not trusting the pocket, drifting too far back. It was a mix of bad protection and hesitation, a recipe for disaster. That first quarter Derrick Henry touchdown made it feel like maybe Baltimore would set the tone with a physical run game. But after that big 28-yard score, Henry was bottled up. Take away that run, and his other carries added up to barely 2 yards a pop. The Lions' defense adjusted, stacked the line, and dared Baltimore to beat them another way. They knew what was coming, and they shut it down. I'll stop this section here, because there's still plenty more to unpack about the Ravens' offense, special teams, and coaching decisions. But as far as setting the tone of what went wrong, you can see the story clear as day. Detroit came in ready, fearless, and sharp. Baltimore came in sloppy, unprepared, and overmatched. All right, so let's dig into the other side of this matchup, because while the defense was a disaster, the Baltimore Ravens offense didn't exactly cover itself in glory either. On the surface, you look at the box score and think, 30 points? 3 touchdowns from Lamar Jackson? Almost 300 yards passing? That should be enough to win. But once again, the numbers don't tell the full story. The reality is that this offense spent most of the night scrambling, patching holes, and trying to keep up with a Detroit team that had complete control. Every time the Ravens looked like they might build momentum, something would stall out. A sack, a fumble, a stuffed run, a failed fourth down. The offense looked dangerous in flashes, but way too inconsistent to match the Lions. One of the biggest issues was the offensive line. It has been a weak spot all season, and this game just highlighted how bad it can get when they're up against a top defensive front. Lamar Jackson was sacked 7 times. That number is ridiculous. And yes, some of those sacks were on him, holding the ball too long or drifting too far back in the pocket. But most of them were just flat-out breakdowns. You had Hutchinson pushing aside Stanley like he was a practice dummy, defenders slipping through double teams, and a line that looked overwhelmed from the very beginning. When your quarterback is dropping back and doesn't even trust his own blockers to hold for a second, that's a major problem. And that lack of trust changes the way Lamar plays. You could see it. Sometimes he'd snap the ball and immediately drift way back, like he was bracing for impact before anyone even touched him. Other times he'd hold on too long, trying to create something out of nothing, only to take another sack. It was the perfect storm of poor blocking and quarterback hesitation. That's how you end up losing almost 60 yards to sacks in one night. Then you look at Derrick Henry. Early on, he gave Ravens fans a glimpse of what they wanted to see, breaking free for that 28-yard touchdown run where it felt like, okay, the king is back. This is what we've been waiting for. But after that, nothing. Completely bottled up. He finished with 12 carries for 50 yards, but when one of those carries is 28, That means the other 11 runs combined for just 22 yards. That's not going to cut it. Credit to Detroit's defense. They adjusted quickly, stacked the box, and swarmed him every chance they got. Even when the Ravens tried getting creative, pitching him the ball to give him a running start, he still got stuffed. And the strangest play call of the night might have been when they had Henry throw a pass. Yes, you heard that right. Lamar pitched it to Henry. Henry hesitated, then tried to float a jump ball down the field. It fell incomplete, and you just had to ask yourself, why? At that moment, with the game still hanging in the balance, it felt like the Ravens panicked or got too cute for their own good. That play summed up how out of sync this offense felt. The passing game did have bright spots, though. Mark Andrews had his best outing of the season so far, finally looking like the reliable target that fans know him to be. 2 touchdowns, some tough catches, and he looked alive again. Rashad Bateman also had one of his better games, coming up with clutch third-down grabs that kept drives alive. Justice Hill made a highlight play, bouncing off tacklers for a big gain late in the game that gave the Ravens a little hope. Those plays showed you what this offense is capable of. But then you look at the rest of the group. Zay Flowers, quiet. DeAndre Hopkins, barely involved. And overall, it just didn't feel like everyone was on the same page. And then there's the decision-making. There were a couple moments that just didn't make sense. One of them came late in the game when the Ravens scored and decided to go for 2. They didn't get it, and while some people defended the decision by saying, "Oh, if you get the onside kick, then you only need a touchdown and an extra point to win," I just didn't see the logic. Why not take the sure point, keep it a one-score game, and give yourself options? Instead, they gambled, and it didn't pay off. It felt like another example of this team overthinking in big moments instead of just executing. Special teams didn't save them either. Rashid Ali had a nice kickoff return that looked like it might spark something, but the Lions kicker made the stop and kept it from turning into a touchdown. Tyler Lue hit a field goal that looked shaky in the air but barely squeezed through. Outside of that, it was an uneventful night for the special teams. And when you're playing a team as sharp as Detroit, you need something extra from special teams to tilt the balance. They didn't get it. The frustrating thing for Ravens fans is that this offense has talent. Lamar Jackson put up numbers that should win games. Andrews showed up. Bateman looked solid. Henry at least had one big play. And the team still managed 30 points. But it never felt like they were in control. It always felt like they were fighting uphill, chasing Detroit, reacting instead of dictating. That's not a formula for success in this league. Detroit, meanwhile, looked prepared for everything. Their defensive coordinator played mind games with Lamar all night. In the second half, he kept a spy on him, but not in the traditional sense. Instead of rushing or trying to collapse the pocket, that spy just waited. He hung back, watched Lamar, and as soon as Lamar tried to scramble, he was there. It looked simple, but it worked perfectly. That kind of adjustment shows how well Detroit scouted this team. They knew exactly what Lamar likes to do, and they took it away. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. Whispers are swirling through the NFL community after Detroit Lions head coach Dan Campbell didn't hold back his frustration following his team's recent clash with the Baltimore Ravens. Sources close to the Lions' locker room claim Campbell's post-game comments have ignited a firestorm of speculation about the officiating, with the coach openly stating that he felt the game was stolen from his squad. While the statement may have been made in the heat of the moment, insiders suggest it reflects deeper concerns within the organization about what many see as inconsistent calls that heavily influence the outcome. The Lions, coming off a hard-fought battle, appeared to have momentum in their favor in the final quarter, only to watch key plays get overturned or penalties assessed at the worst possible moments. Teammates reportedly rallied behind Campbell's bold comments, feeling vindicated by his willingness to speak out, while fans have taken to social media in droves, sharing clips and hot takes that dissect each controversial call. Analysts are now debating whether Campbell's declaration will spur the league to review the officiating or simply become another headline in a season already brimming with drama. Adding fuel to the speculation, league insiders hint that Campbell's vocal stance is not just about a single game, but part of a broader message to both officials and the media. The Lions are not backing down, and they feel every call counts when playoff aspirations are on the line. Some coaches in the league reportedly admire his audacity, while others caution that such statements can draw penalties or even league fines. Yet, for Detroit, the rumblings of injustice may be exactly what the team needs to galvanize itself for the weeks ahead. As the chatter intensifies, the NFL community is abuzz with debates. Did the Lions truly get robbed? Or is this simply the passion of a coach unwilling to let a hard-fought game slip away? Whatever the truth, one thing is clear. Dan Campbell's bold words have set the rumor mill spinning, leaving fans, analysts, and rivals alike speculating on what's next for a team that refuses to go quietly, even when they believe the whistle blew against them. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.